All right, welcome back to Island Sound and Story. We are here in Nanaimo once again on a scorching day. I had a nice jacket on. I took it off. I'm sleeveless for the interview because it's so boiling hot out here. But tell us who we're talking to today.
Hi, my name's Gabe. I live here in Nanaimo, and I work here at the Vault.
Yeah.
I'm David. I live here in Nanaimo and play music in several bands.
And what band are you two playing together?
We play in a band called Death Proof.
Yeah, and you're just recording an EP right now?
Yeah, we're at the final stages of putting out a demo. And we're going to be doing probably a full-length record in the fall. Kind of pretty recent band, but it's myself, Dave here, and a couple other members of a few other bands here in town that are pretty legendary, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of a mini super group, isn't it?
Yeah, we've all come from kind of our own journey through rock and roll growth and met here, and it's been we've been talking about it for like 4 years, and then we finally have managed to put it together and get the ball rolling this year. So it's been a pretty sick experience so far.
Yeah, and how did you two meet? Because you moved to Nanaimo a bit more recently, didn't you?
Moved in 2017, so you moved later than that. We met. Was this river show just on the outskirts, like on the logging roads in Nanaimo River? What's it? Nanaimo Lakes Road? I don't remember.
Nanaimo River Road.
Nanaimo River Road.
I mean, no.
Anyway, it was just.
And this is where people play music. It's by the river.
Yeah, I was playing in a free jazz band that had never played before, and he complimented me, and we're fast friends after that.
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty incredible experience and time and place there. But this man shreds beyond all recognition. So. Well,
you shred in some hard and heavy music, and you play free jazz. How far does the repertoire expand?
I got sort of like a country punk project called Fish Townsend, and recently I was playing in bass in Truth. And Truth is, how did you describe MJ McGregor's kind of queer folk with the keyboard? That's pretty fun. I like to try to branch out and do a little bit of everything.
Well, how did you get such an eclectic mix of stuff that you're into and that you yourself play? Did it all come at once? Did you hop between genres?
I guess I always liked bands that do a lot of different genres just in one recording. But I think mostly it's just helping out friends in the community and wanting to just do as much as I can, really.
Yeah. Is that really something that you've found in the Nanaimo scene? Is this kind of cross-pollination, this kind of thing?
Yeah. Anytime I talk about playing with a different band, like Jeremy, who works at Weird Wealth here, she's in Sharing Pink's Behaviors, Earthball, they just did a tour. Anyway, anytime I mention it, he's like, I love how everybody in Nanaimo is just in each other's bands.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like, it's polybandery.
Polybandery. Is that the first time you came up with that, or is that...
Somebody coined that. It's not mine, I'll say that, but it's true. Like, anyway, it's true though, but like it's what makes this place such an incredible melting pot, and like this music seems so special is that there really isn't there's not like the conventional scene, you know, like I think a lot of time, like I'm from out east, and in Toronto, like, you know, there's like the Toronto metal scene, like there's the Toronto punk scene, and so on and so forth.
There's such a volume that each subgenre can be siloed.
Well, exactly, and like obviously that's a big city, right? And you know, the city's not that big, but I think the community here that is a really great example of like just a music scene that is always looking to thrive, and by doing that, everyone's always helping each other. And it's not just music, you know, like it's through just like a common appreciation and mutual respect for like a beautiful arts community, and like sharing that with people, it creates something so much more.
We overheated. We got too hot over there. You put on a different shirt. I put on my jacket. You're in the same clothes.
Stayed the same. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about all these different projects that you've been in. Like, just take us through a few of them and the kind of unique characteristics of some of them. Go around. All right. Never mind. Just take us through a few of the unique different projects that you've done.
I think my main one is it's called Macerator, and I want to say it's like a sludgy stoner band, but maybe like a little bit more 90s in sound. And that started with the drummer and bassist were playing together, and then I went to a Sleep concert. I didn't really know anybody, and he said it was as though there wasn't any spotlight in the room except on my head, so he just knew he had to get me in the band because he knew I played guitar.
An ethereal moment.
Yeah, so that's my main thing, I guess. We're recording a new album. We just started recently.
They rule so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, even before I talked to you, I've heard people mention Macerator. It might have been you. It might have just been you mentioning it.
I love
But
Macerator.
yeah, but you're in a few other things. Obviously, a bunch of different stuff. You do zines as well, don't you?
Yeah, I kind of make typewriter art. I just like sitting in front of an electronic typewriter, slapping the keys, reversing to move the paper, make an image out of it. And yeah, a little bit, like I dabble in painting and things like that, but I don't usually show my paintings.
Obviously, you've been in all these different bands. What does that reflect to you about what it's been like being in Nanaimo, the nature of people here, and the nature of kind of the community here, which we touched on just a second ago, but I want to get your kind of overarching read of it.
I feel like it's a tightly knit but really accepting community. So if you're unknown here, but supporting other musicians, all that, people seem to almost like take you under their wing right away.
Yeah.
And this building here, the Vault, I always wanted to play here. And then even a couple years later, after I played a bunch of shows here, I walk in, I'm like, I still want to play the Vault. It's my favorite place in Nanaimo, really.
Yeah. So it's like it's welcoming. It brings people in. It has these kind of key pillars that people really aspire to. But then once you're kind of in the mix, it feels more like home, more like just this is, life.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to elaborate, but it just feels good. It's my favorite music community, maybe of anywhere I've been.
I know that you have to run. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's been great having you on. And I can't wait to have a whole shuffle playlist of just your different bands. All right, so we've migrated around to the front side of the vault where you work. Before we were around the corner, beautiful pink building right in downtown Nanaimo. Really a hub of the hub city. Where people, you do art, you do music, poetry readings. It's a cafe. It does events. It does food. Like this is, and I think just because of where it's located, right at the intersection of all these this kind of triangle intersection of this main strip where there is so much, which we kind of talked about a second ago, of just the different businesses that are around here, cafes, different things starting up. I want to ask you about two things. Number one, tell us just a little bit more about kind of this strip, the community that's built up around it.
Yeah.
And if a car goes by and it's too loud, just pause and we'll cut it out. Cool. But I don't want to miss any of your beautiful words.
Oh, thank you.
So to talk a little bit about the strip and the community here and the businesses, but also I think something that's really standing out is that this isn't you saying, oh, the so-and-so that I is my favorite pizza maker in town is starting a new pizza place, or so-and-so is moving between restaurants. It's one of your bandmates that also does pizza. And so there's this quality of people, not to riff too much on this restaurant idea, but people having their fingers in multiple pots, people in the scene wearing different hats to mix metaphors even further.
Exactly. And like I was talking about before in my earlier ramblings, I think that's something that I've just really noticed with all the people that live here and frequent downtown is they have many different skills, right? And It's awesome when people can do like so much stuff. Like we have a song in Kyle and I's band called Death Proof. The first song we ever wrote was called Renaissance Man, and it was kind of just like about that. Well, I mean, he has different lyrics, but like in my interpretation, it's about, you know, being this this entity of multiple facets, which I think is you know, the idea of like a Renaissance man, right, was to be skilled in everything. So I think it's really cool when you have the ability to take, you know, a plethora of different skills and apply them to different facets of your life that can enrich you and your community and your friends.
Yeah, and you know, it's Nanaimo obviously didn't invent an artist that does something
God,
else,
no.
but I
No.
think that the with that being, you know, obvious,
Totally.
I think that there is really a noticeable proportion here
Yeah.
of people who are doing multiple things or and who are really pursuing them. So it's
Totally.
not just a musician who has a day job.
No.
It's a musician who also is pursuing day job type things as a real venture, whether that's a store,
Totally.
whether that's you know, a little business, a food type of thing.
Yeah, it's I think it's whatever just sort of makes you happy, you know, and pursuing that. And like, you know, and I don't claim any great grandiose thing about anything, but I do just know that like when you see people in your day-to-day lives that are having ideas and having these creative juices just flow, right? And you're surrounded by that all the time. You influence each other to do things like this, right? And you know, and this is just our little pocket here, you know. Like I think Vancouver Island as a whole is a place where a lot of people come to just be around those like minded people, you know. And like I'm a newcomer here, you know. I'm a very, very newcomer here, and I feel very grateful to be accepted into a community where, you know, so many different areas of your life can shine.
We talk about how magical it is, but it doesn't happen by
Oh,
magic.
no.
There are these logistics involved in it as well.
And I think that's actually a really good point as well, because like the city of Nanaimo definitely has some very backwards perspectives in a lot of areas. You know, definitely in ones concerning social issues. And
So you've been
so-
frustrated that there hasn't been more kind of help from the
Absolutely.
city for these kind of things,
Absolutely.
which I guess is tricky though, because it's, you know, does the city have the budget for it? Should it be the province's responsibility, et cetera, et cetera?
Totally. And, you know, obviously that's a better, that's another conversation, sorry, to have, just based on like the care and the funding and basically the overall importance of mental health support. And that's really the root, I think, of a lot of the issues that we see here within, like, you know, the houseless and impoverished communities around here, which we're at the very center of as well. You know, like we're a part of that community too, and it's, you know, everyone's responsibility down here to look out for each other. And that's something that I really hope that the city maybe plays a little bit more of a part in doing better at.
Yeah, and I think what kind of you're highlighting there as well is that I know that, you know, for maybe sometimes as people see it in the media or people that don't live downtown, whether it's downtown Victoria, Nanaimo, Seattle, wherever it may be, is people that don't consider people who are poor, people who don't have a home, people who have struggles as part of their community, as a normal citizen like them.
Totally.
But I think that when you're on this strip that is already quite full of community,
Yeah.
that community is not in an enclave where it can exclude those people who are poor or those people who have
No.
difficulties. Like they remain your neighbors.
Absolutely.
And it's not kind of a, it's not a community in a kind of bougie consumable way.
No.
It does have to kind of be a community for everyone that's present.
Well, and that's the thing too, and it really, I think, ties into the philosophy of like down here, and like especially this place, in that everybody deserves love, care, and support.
What kind of things have you found that you were more able to kind of cultivate in your life when you were living here and as you kind of got settled into here?
Yeah, well, I moved out here about 4 years ago. Like I said, I am a newcomer here, and I was lucky enough to have some family on the island, and so moved in with them just north of here, and then just came down here one day, and was immediately just like inspired, because it was very different from where I come from out east, in Ontario. And I think it takes a while to plant your roots anywhere, but just kind of having this a new perspective for nature, a new perspective of community, a new perspective of just myself as a person. It's amazing what a shift in scenery can do for you, and also being around people who, and talking about perspective change, being around people who tell you to not worry if you're gonna make millions of dollars doing something, or it might not be the best choice ever, but people who encourage you to do things that make you happy, and to follow whatever it is you want to do, and just knowing that you will find a way and that there is support, and that's an amazing realization to have as well. And I'm very lucky to come from a family that supports that a lot, but I find maybe where I grew up was a little bit more conservative leaning, or I don't know what it is, but I've definitely found a relaxedness in my life here that I feel I can kind of just trudge forward and really try to just make it what I want it, you know?
Yeah, and kind of find a healthy equilibrium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of talking about finding kind of healthy ways to live, living within your means. Not people use that to mean money, but within your capacity, within what's healthy for you, what's sustainable for you, what allows you to treat others the way that you want to treat them and not have to clamber over them, and that allows you to pursue your passions and these kind of things. What goes into that for you? What has kind of gone into trying to go closer and closer to the type of life that you want to lead and that you want to bring of yourself to the people around you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm very fortunate to come from a very loving family, and I think that it's a wonderful thing to have, right?
And it's such a differentiator between we talk about all these different axes of privilege and advantage or disadvantage
Absolutely.
that people can get.
Yep.
Having a family that you can rely on, that supports you rather than you supporting them, that is safe and respectful to you, that can make such a difference in someone's upbringing and someone's life continually. So I certainly don't want to discount that.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think for both of us, even getting us to a place where we're able to try and
100%
manage our lives.
Well, yeah, it's like coming from a solid foundation, right? Like that's the basis of anything, right? And I'm not saying that's that I'm fortunate enough to have that, and I realize my privilege in that, and sounds like you do as well.
And
like,
it's not to take anything away from people who have overcome lacking that.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I want to kind of remember that was a barrier I was lucky enough to not have to surmount. And you're kind of
Totally.
saying the same thing.
Exactly. And like I had artistic parents, and I also have very old parents too, right? Who I think who had a very organic way of thinking about things. And my mom lived out here in the 70s. My dad actually visited for the first time since the 70s as well, just really recently. And it's funny because it's like I just imagine them here. It's like I can't believe you didn't end up here. But anyway, yeah, my family definitely always told me to do what I wanted to do. But I think a lot of my upbringing and maybe my peers was a lot more straightforward thinking, right? And it took COVID and then moving out here to be like, oh, wow, like, maybe love of just creating and outputting your creations is what you should do with your life.
So before we wrap up, I do want to talk to you about music, obviously.
Yeah.
But as we talk about, it's hard to separate music from everything else that goes on here. What you were saying that there's some kind of like so-and-so's brothers, so-and-so that through like,
Yeah.
give me the kind of map of like the music to food to business connection just in this kind of core here.
Well, I think it's just kind of funny, like sometimes it's interesting to just look at like how everybody and everything is connected, and I think it's something you can do in any community, but the vault here seems to be just like it is the hub. It's the hub of Hub City. And through this, they're like on this strip, what do we have? We got Sound Heritage, which is a audio and record store.
Well, we'll be even in the other direction where we were earlier.
Well, even in the other direction, right. So we had, at the end of commercial there, Valentina and Dave, who play in Caveman and the Banshee, they own Noise, Agony, Mayhem, which is a record store and a micro label. And then right beside that, my very good friend Kyle Frazier and Chris Meme have Paisano's Pizza. Yeah, and Kyle plays in Death Proof with myself. He plays in Behaviors. Chris plays in a Nirvana cover band and, various hardcore bands of the 90s. And then beside that is Milk Jam. And Donut Shop. I actually don't know who runs that, but Matt Chesterfield works there, who also owns Vault Skateboards.
Yeah.
Skateboard shop in town, which Death Proof actually played our first show there.
Yeah, so it's all
that's what I mean. It's just like it's cool how like and then beside that, I believe is Rumors.
Yeah.
And then a little farther down the street, what else is down there? Funk Revival's down there, another cool vintage shop.
Gabriel's is right around
Gabriel's,
there.
I don't actually know who owns Gabriel's, but beside that, Lucky Cloud, Ida and Fizzy own that. Fizzy used to be the manager of the Vault, and they have a band together called Hush Pup, which is an incredible band. Ida's on tour right now with Aura Kogan.
Yeah.
Aura Kogan does incredible music. They're on tour in the Europe, in the UK, I think. They're ripping it right now. And
so it's this is 4 stores, 5 stores, 6 whatever.
That's
in a row.
Literally 6 stores.
And you could take any given kind of pocket.
Yeah.
In this kind of area.
It's so cool.
And there would be these different connections between people.
Yeah.
And between sectors, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's I'm just really grateful for all of it. I'm grateful to live here.
Well, but you're contributing to it as well. You're part of what I think other people end up being grateful for as well. And one of the contributions that I want to make sure I do ask you about is the new demo tape coming out.
Yeah.
I was in there listening earlier. We might get back in there and listen some more.
Yeah.
What excites you about heavy music, about metal, about these different genres? What do you like? What do you seek out? and what do you try to cultivate in your own music?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Well, in short, I'm the youngest in the family by a very, very large gap, like 10 years. So,
Okay, yeah.
you know, growing up, my sisters were into avant-garde music, punk, metal, hip hop, just everything, right? Very, very eclectic taste. So having that and being exposed to maybe a lot of more contemporary music at a really young age, I just felt a very visceral connection to it. And yeah, I started playing in punk bands when I was like probably 16, and then played in various bands all through college.
And this was out in Ontario,
This
right?
was in Ontario, yeah. So, you know, through Hamilton, Ontario, or Hamilton, Toronto, Guelph, London, Ontario, Windsor. Yeah, just lots of pockets. So got a lot of experience kind of really quick. And then moving out here and kind of trying to, well, I moved out here at the height of COVID, right? So I kind of had a rough time maybe meeting people and stuff as quickly as one would. But you know, as time passes and things start happening again and going to shows and meeting people, and you know, Kyle, who we were talking about, I met him like 4 years ago-ish now, and probably the first day we met, we were like, we should start a band. And 4 years later now we have this band called Death Proof that we play in here in town. And we recorded our demo over at the Chamber with much help from Watson and Rob, who are the proprietors there. Wonderful place if you ever need audio work done.
Yeah, right next to CFUV it is, right?
CHLY.
CHLY. I always
Yeah.
mix up the call signals of
Yeah, I know.
the Calgary one, the Victoria one, but yeah, CHLY.
CHLY, yeah, community radio here on the Salish Sea. My partner Lizzie Lou has a show there, 4 o'clock on Saturdays, golden hour. Tune into that. Yeah, but it really stoked to get that project off the ground, and just kind of like, you know, I've been watching bands here for the past couple years, and I do sound here at the Vault, so I'm able to catch a lot of local and, you know, local adjacent bands that come through town. But yeah, you know, to be able to give back and like I said earlier too, like it's the only music scene I've ever really been a part of that doesn't have, like, you know,
Silos.
it's not pigeonholed, right? It's like every, you know, there's noise rock bands, and there's electronic bands, and there's folk bands, and there's stand-up comedians, and there's, you know, puppeteers, and it's amazing.